What if a 6-year-old asked a billionaire a question that no adult dared to ask? That was the thought spinning in everyone's minds the moment she stood up. No one expected her to be there. In fact, when Elon Musk walked onto the modest stage set up in the gymnasium of Midland Elementary School, the last thing anyone thought was that the most memorable moment of his visit would come from a child too small to even see over the table without standing on a chair. The day had started like any other in the quiet town of Midland, Michigan. Families wandered the local science expo, examining student-built models of solar panels, wind turbines made from Legos, and basic coding games scribbled together on dusty laptops. In one far corner stood a little girl in a faded yellow jacket 2 sizes too big for her, clutching a metal contraption she had built from junkyard scraps and an old toaster. Her name was Lily Carson. 6 years old. Eyes too wide for her small face. Hands smudged with graphite and oil. Next to her stood her father, Matt, looking equally out of place among the rows of overachieving students and tech dads with shiny name tags. They hadn't even known Elon Musk would be coming. The news had hit the local station just that morning, and by the time they arrived, the place was packed. People held up smartphones. Security personnel lined the walls. Whispers filled the room, "He's really here. Elon Musk. In Midland." The crowd hushed when he finally appeared. Dressed in his signature black blazer and t-shirt, he didn't walk, he strolled. With that effortless confidence that made you believe he'd just stepped off a rocket. He gave a short talk about dreaming big, then opened the floor to questions. A long line formed, high schoolers, tech club members, the mayor's nephew. Each asked questions that sounded rehearsed. What's your biggest failure? How do you plan to make Mars habitable? What's your advice for young entrepreneurs? Elon answered them all politely, sometimes even enthusiastically. But it was clear, nothing new, nothing risky. Just the same script he'd repeated in dozens of cities before. Then a voice rang out from the back, not loud, but sharp enough to pierce the lull. "Can I ask something?" People turned. "A child?" Elon shaded his eyes and gestured. "Sure. What's your name?" "Lily," she said. "Lily Carson." "All right, Lily. What's your question?" And she asked it. Right there, in front of cameras, journalists, influencers, and engineers. She asked, if you had one rocket left, and could only send one person to space to save Earth, would you pick a kid? There was a beat of total silence. Not awkward, not mocking. Just, stunned. Elon blinked. The room held its breath. A few chuckles scattered through the crowd, but they died quickly. Because everyone could feel it, this was different. Elon stepped forward slightly, suddenly unsure of his usual swagger. "Why do you ask?" Lily shifted on the chair, gripping the edge of the table. "Because sometimes grown-ups forget how to dream. But kids don't. And if Earth needed saving, maybe you'd need someone who still knows how to imagine a new one." There it was. A question and an answer wrapped in one. Pure, raw, and impossible to ignore. Elon looked at her like he had just discovered something. Not a child. A message. Something real. The cameras caught it all. Within minutes, the clip was uploaded online. Within an hour, it hit Twitter. By morning, it had been viewed 10 million times. And that's where the story really begins. But it didn't start in a spotlight or in the home of the world's richest man. It started in a cramped garage behind a rundown house on the edge of town. It started with a girl who refused to let her world shrink, even as everything around her got smaller. Before the internet fell in love with her, before Elon Musk tweeted her name, and before any scholarship offers or interviews or science programs, there was just Lily. Just a girl and her imagination. The day of the science fair had almost not happened. Matt had debated it the night before, counting crumpled bills at the kitchen table while Lily soldered wires to a cracked circuit board. "We don't have the gas money, kiddo, he muttered, sighing. And this thing, you sure it's not gonna blow up? She didn't even look up. Nope. I made sure. I read about voltage limits in that book from Miss Carter. Matt rubbed his eyes. It's just, you know they're gonna laugh, right? Some of those kids got kits flown in from Japan. Yours is made from a toaster and a doorbell. Lily looked up finally, her brown eyes unshakable. But mine works. That was Lily. Always quiet. Always certain. And always building something. The garage had become her lab. The neighbors thought it was cute at first. Until sparks started flying and small explosions followed. But Ms. Carter, her second-grade teacher, had seen something in Lily. She brought her books on physics, old radio parts, even introduced her to coding apps. This one, she had told Matt, has more in her head than most people do at 30. But you've got to get her out of this town, even just for a day. So he did. They drove to the fair with the heater broken and a plastic bag covering the back window. They got mocked at the gate when the security guard sneered at Lily's trash sculpture, but still, she got inside. Still, she asked the question. And now, standing on that stage, Elon Musk wasn't just facing a curious child. He was facing the rawness of a dream. For a brief second, you could see it, the way he blinked slower, the way his jaw tightened. He wasn't just answering a question. He was remembering something. Maybe a time when he was 11, reading Asimov and staring out his own window, before the suits, before the numbers, before the boardrooms. He nodded slowly. That's a good question, he said finally. And maybe, yeah, maybe I would. The crowd erupted. People clapped, some stood. But Lily didn't smile. She just looked at him, searching. As if she needed more than an answer. As if she needed proof. Elon added, you remind me of someone I used to be. Stay curious, Lily. And with that, she stepped down. No bow. No celebration. Just back to her gadget and her dad, like nothing had happened. But something had. Something big. Within the next few hours, the clip surged through the internet. Reddit threads. Instagram reels. Elon's official account tweeted, Lily Carson made me think. A lot. That was all. But that was enough. Interviews started calling. Journalists emailed the school. A podcast host showed up at their front door. But Lily didn't care. She was already back in the garage, trying to tweak the coil that had sparked too soon. For her, the moment wasn't the question. It was the next invention. The next idea. But for everyone else, for the world, it was a wake-up call. In a time when cynicism ruled, a little girl had cracked through the noise. She didn't have a PhD. She didn't have a platform. Just one question. And one fearless heart. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Before the world knew her name, before Elon Musk ever looked twice at a 6-year-old girl from Michigan, Lily Carson was just another forgotten child in a town that time forgot. Midland wasn't the kind of place that raised stars. It was a place of rusting silos, flickering streetlights, and the low, steady hum of a town quietly fading. The houses stood tired, windows sagged, yards grew wild and uncut. You could hear everything that mattered in the creak of old swings and the silence between dinner tables. In a small blue house on Jackson Street, Lily lived with her father, Matt Carson, a man who walked like the weight of the world had settled somewhere between his shoulder blades. Matt wasn't always this way. Years ago, he'd been the kid with the dream, the one who left town for engineering school with a full ride and a busted motorcycle he rebuilt by hand. But dreams crack, and sometimes they don't make a sound when they shatter. His cracked the night Lily's mother died. Her name was Elise. She was light, laughter, and hope, rolled into one. Matt had met her during his second year at the University of Michigan. She wasn't just the love of his life, she was the reason he believed in life at all. Elise had grown up differently, in a world with jazz playing in the kitchen, books on every shelf, and parents who kissed each other goodbye every morning. Matt had never seen that before her. Together, they built a world that made sense, a baby, a plan, a promise. Lily was born in a storm. Elise's labor came early and hard. They named her Lily because Elise said she looked fragile and fierce, just like the flower. Matt held his baby in the hospital room and whispered, "You're going to build stars, little one." And Elise had smiled through the pain and replied, "Or maybe she'll become one." But Elise didn't make it to Lily's second birthday. It was a car crash on the highway, mid-December, with snow in the air and ice under the tires. One minute she was coming back from buying Christmas lights, and the next, Matt was identifying her body in a sterile room that smelled like floor polish and tragedy. Something inside Matt shut off after that. He dropped out of school. Moved back to Midland. Took a job fixing tractors and pickup trucks. Every night he'd come home to Lily, feed her, bathe her, read her a story with a voice so hollow even fairy tales sounded like bad news. He never talked about Elise. Never spoke of dreams. But Lily never forgot her mother, not really. She'd stare at the stars out her window at night and whisper, "Mama's there." She'd sit with old photo albums, tracing her fingers over Elise's smile. But what she remembered most wasn't the pictures, it was the voice. The bedtime stories Elise used to tell, stories about galaxies and faraway worlds and cities that floated in the sky. "Imagination is more important than anything else," Elise would say. "It's how you change the world." And Lily, even at 4, took those words like commandments. She started building things. Her first invention was a flashlight made from a broken wristwatch and a mini drumstick. It didn't work, but she didn't care. Every day after school, she'd run into the garage, pulling out tools she barely understood, scribbling blueprints in crayon on the back of cereal boxes. Matt didn't stop her. He didn't always understand her, but he saw Elise in her, the same spark, the same fire. And though he was scared of it, he couldn't bring himself to put it out. But the world didn't make space for girls like Lily. At school, her classmates called her weird. Her teacher in kindergarten marked her as disruptive because she asked too many questions. She was quiet most days, until she wasn't. When she spoke, it was about things like circuits and rockets and the reason birds fly in V's. Most adults smiled politely and patted her head. But Ms. Carter, her second-grade teacher, saw her. Really saw her. She was the kind of teacher who didn't just hand out worksheets but asked kids how they felt. She noticed the way Lily sat alone during lunch, nose buried in a tattered book about the solar system. She watched her sketch rocket boosters on napkins. One day after class, she knelt beside Lily and said, "You know, people used to call Einstein slow. They thought he wasn't smart because he didn't talk like the other kids. Turns out, he just saw the world differently." Lily looked up and whispered, "I see things explode in my head, like ideas." Ms. Carter smiled. "That's called vision. Don't lose it." After that, Ms. Carter started bringing Lily old National Geographic issues, books on space travel, even her late brother's soldering kit. She lobbied the school to enter Lily in the Midland Science Expo, though technically she was 2 years too young. When Lily showed her a sketch of a homemade battery that could power a small lamp using lemon juice and wire, Ms. Carter teared up. "You're going to do something big," she told her. "I don't know what or when. But it'll matter." Meanwhile, Matt kept struggling. Money was tight. His hands were always greasy, his back always aching. He didn't have time to think about destiny or genius. He only saw the electric bill piling up and the fridge going empty. He loved Lily fiercely, but loving didn't fix broken things. He was a man buried under memories he couldn't shake and bills he couldn't pay. Sometimes he'd watch Lily working in the garage and feel both pride and fear, because what if he couldn't give her what she needed? What if she was destined for more than he could ever provide? Still, he tried. He did her hair for school, badly. He made pancakes every Sunday, even if they were burnt. He helped her build models, even if he didn't understand them. He stayed up late watching YouTube videos on physics just to keep up with her questions. "Daddy, why does gravity pull things down?" she asked once. "Why not up?" He had paused, then said, "Because the Earth's lonely and doesn't want to let go." She'd nodded like that made sense. Maybe it did. At night, they'd lie on the roof, wrapped in old blankets, staring at the stars. Lily would point out constellations, and Matt would try to remember their names. "That's Orion," she'd say. "And that one's Pegasus. Mama said stars are stories waiting to be told." And Matt, throat tight, would whisper, "Then tell me one." So she did. Story after story, about worlds where kids were astronauts and built ships in secret labs under playgrounds. Stories where they fixed planets with tools made from love and metal scraps. Stories where no one laughed at their questions. That was Lily's world. A world of what-ifs. Of maybes. Of what could be. And maybe that's why, when the science fair was announced on the radio, she looked at her dad with those big brown eyes and said, "We have to go. Please." He tried to say no. They couldn't afford gas. She didn't stand a chance. The competition was older kids, rich kids, kids with teams and sponsors. But Lily didn't care. She wasn't going to win. She just wanted to show someone. Anyone. What she made. "I need someone to see it," she whispered. "Not just you." And Matt, remembering Elise, remembering the way she used to chase fireflies barefoot and believe in everything, finally nodded. "Okay, Bug. Let's show them." He didn't know what would happen. He didn't know who'd be there. But he knew this: Lily deserved a chance to be seen. And somewhere, deep down, maybe he needed to believe in something again too. He didn't expect Elon Musk. He didn't expect the moment. And he certainly didn't expect what came next. But life, as Elise once said, isn't about expectations. It's about stories. And Lily's was just beginning. Lily didn't look like a genius. Not the kind the world usually recognizes, anyway. She didn't wear lab coats or glasses, and she never boasted about test scores or raised her hand just to sound smart. Instead, she wore the same 3 t-shirts on rotation, space-themed, faded from too many wash cycles, and always had a smudge of grease or ink on her cheek. Her shoes had holes, her hair never sat right, and her backpack rattled with loose screws, wires, and sketchpads stuffed with diagrams no one at school could decipher. And yet, there was something undeniable about her. When she entered a room, she didn't draw attention because she was loud. She drew it because of how focused she looked, how absorbed she was in whatever she was building, how her eyes darted over every corner of the world like it might hold the answer to a question she hadn't figured out how to ask yet. From the moment she could talk, Lily was obsessed with figuring things out. Not just how things worked, but why. Why did birds fly in a V instead of a circle? Why did batteries die faster in the cold? Why did the moon sometimes disappear? She asked questions her father couldn't always answer, and when the world didn't hand her explanations, she set out to find them herself. Matt tried his best to keep up, but sometimes it felt like she was already miles ahead. Their garage, once just a space for his old tools and broken-down mower, had become her lab. Lily claimed one half of it entirely, cleared out the old Christmas boxes and laid down flattened cardboard boxes as her lab flooring. On a folding table held together by duct tape and prayers, she arranged her projects in neat, chaotic rows. There was her solar water heater prototype made from Coke cans, an attempt at a wind-powered phone charger using salvaged fan blades, and her latest obsession, a small cube that lit up and changed colors based on sound frequency. She called it the mood box. It wasn't perfect, but she said it had potential. Everything has potential, she'd tell her father, if you can see past what it looks like now. At school, though, potential wasn't enough. Her second-grade classmates didn't understand why she talked to her contraptions or carried around broken radios like they were treasure. They didn't understand why she stayed inside during recess to draw rockets or took apart her lunchbox to see how the latch worked. Most of them found her strange. Some called her weird. A few were outright mean. One boy, Caleb, once tripped her on the playground and said, "Maybe you'll invent shoes that don't make you fall." She didn't cry. She never cried. She just stood up, dusted herself off, and said, "Maybe I will." The teachers weren't cruel, just overwhelmed. Mrs. Graves in first grade once told Matt during a conference, "She's brilliant, I think. But it's hard to tell when she doesn't follow the normal structure. She zones out. She's elsewhere." Matt asked what that meant. The teacher shrugged. "She's different." That word, different, hung in the air like a diagnosis. It followed Lily like a quiet echo, unspoken but understood. She didn't talk like the others, didn't play like the others, didn't learn like the others. She was alone more often than not. But she wasn't lonely. Lily had her own world. A universe made of curiosity, imagination, and the humming feeling in her chest every time she got an idea she couldn't explain yet. The only person who seemed to get that was Ms. Carter. She was the first teacher who didn't try to fix Lily. Instead, she listened. Really listened. She let Lily explain her projects, even if they made no practical sense. She let her sit in the back of the class with a sketch pad when her hands needed to move. She gave her books, books that were too advanced for her age, books on physics, chemistry, even astronomy. And when Lily read them, she didn't struggle. She absorbed them. Like her mind had just been waiting for the right input. Once, Ms. Carter asked the class to write a story. Most kids wrote about pets or family vacations. Lily wrote a detailed tale about a girl who built a machine that could translate tree signals into human language. The girl used it to stop a logging company from destroying a forest. The class laughed. Ms. Carter framed it and put it on the wall. "You know what your superpower is?" she asked Lily one afternoon. "You don't let the world tell you how to see it. You tell the world how it could be." Lily just smiled and said, "I think I want to go to space someday." Ms. Carter didn't laugh. "Then start building your spaceship now." Back home, Matt noticed the change. Lily stopped hiding her projects. She talked more. She asked bigger questions. She started keeping a journal where she recorded every idea, no matter how silly it sounded. She called it her "What If" book. Page 1 read, "What if trees talked?" Page 2, "What if kids built cities?" Page 3, "What if I went to space?" Matt read it in the quiet hours after Lily had gone to bed, flipping through the pages with awe and fear. Awe, because his daughter saw the world with the eyes of a visionary. Fear, because he didn't know how to help her hold on to it. He barely scraped together enough to pay rent. How could he fuel this kind of brilliance? But Lily didn't ask for much. Just time. Just tools. Just someone to believe she could do what she imagined. And when the Midland Science Expo was announced, it felt like fate. Ms. Carter had slipped Matt a flyer, circled in red. "She's more than ready," she'd said. "She just needs a stage." Matt had hesitated. The application fee, the drive, the fact that Lily would be up against middle schoolers with private tutors and science coaches. But when he brought it up to Lily, she didn't even blink. "I'll build something they've never seen," she said. "Not because it's flashy. But because it's mine." She got to work right away. Matt watched as she dug through junkyards and alleyways, pulling apart old microwaves, asking neighbors for dead batteries and broken remotes. She built her entry in secret, revealing only glimpses, a flash of wire here, a hiss of steam there. She tested things on the roof, in the basement, even in the bathtub once. When she finally finished, she rolled out what looked like a lumpy, metal cube with odd joints and blinking lights. Matt stared at it, puzzled. What does it do? She tapped a switch. The cube came to life, buzzing, spinning, humming to a tune only Lily seemed to understand. It listens, she said. To sound, movement, temperature. Then it changes color and shape based on how the room feels. I call it a reactive companion. Matt blinked. It feels the room. Not like a person. Like a presence. It knows when it's welcome. It learns patterns. It adapts. Matt tried to find the words. And you, made this? Lily tilted her head. We made it. You gave me the garage. The day of the expo, she carried it like treasure. People stared. Some laughed. One judge raised an eyebrow and said, "What's this supposed to be?" She didn't flinch. She said, "It's not supposed to be anything. It just is." The judge walked away. She shrugged and kept going. And then Elon Musk showed up. And then the question came. And the world changed. But before the viral video, before the internet melted down, before strangers tweeted her name like a badge of hope, there was just this. A girl. A garage. A father who tried. And a mind that never stopped asking what if. It started with static on the car radio, one of those sputtering Midwest mornings where the frost hadn't melted off the windshield yet and the breath inside the truck fogged the glass with every exhale. Matt had just dropped Lily off at school, her backpack clinking with wires and tools, and was driving to the shop where he worked fixing tractors and snowplows that coughed and groaned louder than he did getting out of bed. The same old country station was playing, interrupted by the occasional local news update that usually meant pothole warnings or county fairs. But then the radio crackled, then paused, and a newscaster's voice came through in that excited, barely contained energy that made Matt immediately suspicious. Big news for science lovers in the Tri-City area. SpaceX CEO and tech billionaire Elon Musk is making a surprise appearance at this weekend's Midland Regional Science Expo. The rest of the broadcast blurred as Matt pulled over, gripping the steering wheel tighter than he meant to, his heart thudding in time with the windshield wipers as the realization sank in. Elon Musk. Here. In Midland. The man who put rockets on live streams, built cars that drove themselves, and tweeted like he was just another college kid with Wi-Fi. The man who Lily idolized without even fully knowing why. Matt sat in stunned silence. He'd heard of guest speakers before, local engineers, maybe someone from the auto plant in Bay City, but Elon Musk? In their town? That was impossible. The kind of thing that happened in Silicon Valley or New York. Not in a drafty school gym that smelled like old sweat and floor wax. Not here. He switched off the engine and just sat there, replaying the announcement in his head, imagining Lily's reaction when she found out. She would explode. Not literally, though if he didn't help her manage the excitement she might try to build a jetpack before the weekend. The moment she got in the truck that afternoon, Matt couldn't even pretend to keep it in. "You're never gonna believe this," he said, pulling away from the curb in front of the school. Lily didn't look up from her notebook. Did the coil finally ship? No. Bigger. She blinked. Did you fix the heater? Bigger. That made her look up. Is it Mom's birthday? That hurt for a second, like a sudden gust of cold air to the lungs. He smiled sadly and shook his head. No, Bug. It's Musk. He's coming. Her pencil dropped. Coming where? Here. To Midland. This Saturday. The expo. The silence was immediate, heavy, electric. And then it broke, not with a scream, but a whisper, like she didn't trust her own voice. Elon Musk is going to the same science fair I'm in. That's what they said. The Elon Musk? Unless there's another one flying around on autopilot, yeah. Dad, she began, but the words caught. I have to, you need a minute. She nodded rapidly, then started flipping through her notebook like it had just become a mission manual. I have to reprogram the color sensor. It's too sensitive. And the casing, it's not strong enough. What if someone touches it and it falls apart? I need a stronger coil. Maybe repurpose that old drone motor from the basement. Matt couldn't help but laugh, not mockingly, but in that way parents do when they see their kids' dreams suddenly hit full throttle. Slow down, kiddo. We've got a few days. Let's make a plan. But Lily wasn't listening. She was already in engineer mode, muttering equations and sketching parts in the air with her finger, imagining how to make her invention go from scrap metal curiosity to show-stopping prototype. That night, she didn't sleep. Neither did Matt. She was too excited. He was too worried. He knew what these kinds of events could be. Crowded. Overwhelming. Cruel. She'd be one of the youngest participants, competing against high schoolers with clean-cut science projects labeled with laser-printed titles. Her invention was strange, ambiguous, emotional. The judges might not even understand it. Worse, what if someone made fun of her? What if Musk didn't even notice her? What if the whole thing became a reminder that the world didn't always reward creativity, only conformity? But none of that mattered to Lily. She was on a mission. For 3 days, she barely ate, taking apart the cube, rewiring circuits, rebuilding the structure with parts salvaged from an old toaster and a broken space heater. Matt helped where he could, sanding down rough edges, tightening screws, fetching wire cutters from the cluttered garage. They played music while they worked, mostly old jazz records Elise had loved. It made the cold garage feel warm. For the first time in a long while, Matt felt like they were doing something together, not just surviving the same space. And then Friday came. The final checklist. The cube, dubbed Echo, was polished and humming with potential. The sensors were reprogrammed to detect fluctuations in air pressure, sound, and motion. It didn't just change colors anymore, it reacted to emotional energy in a space, its internal logic responding to the room's tone. Or so Lily explained. Matt still wasn't sure how she had built something so complex with tools meant for fixing lawnmowers. That night, after she finally fell asleep on the couch in her yellow jacket, Matt stood in the doorway and just watched her. She looked so small, curled up with a blanket tangled around her legs, a smudge of grease on her forehead like war paint. He walked over quietly, brushed her hair from her eyes, and whispered, "Your mom would be proud." Saturday morning came like a lightning strike. The sun rose late and weak, filtering through gray clouds that hung low over the town. They loaded the cube into the back of Matt's truck, patting it with old towels and one of Elisa's coats. Lily buzzed with nervous energy, fidgeting with the straps on her backpack, reciting facts about propulsion systems and temperature sensors to calm herself down. They arrived at the expo just as the parking lot started to fill. The school gym had been transformed, tables lined up in rows, each draped with white paper and marked with colorful number cards. Students rushed around with trifold posters and nervous parents in tow. Matt signed them in at the registration desk, then turned to Lily and handed her the cube. "Go get Bug." She nodded. No smile. Just quiet determination. She set up at the far end of the room, next to a middle school robotics team from Flint with matching hoodies and a sleek-looking drone. They gave her curious glances but didn't say anything. The crowd grew. Parents. Teachers. Journalists. Rumors swirled, Musk was on his way. Security had already started checking bags. A local news team arrived with a camera. Then, without warning, the room shifted. People straightened. Phones lifted. A ripple of movement surged toward the entrance. Elon Musk had arrived. He walked in like he always did, slightly awkward, slightly amused, with a presence that made even the air seem to pause. A circle of handlers surrounded him, but he waved them off, strolling through the rows, pausing at projects that caught his eye. Kids leaned forward. Parents whispered. Judges scrambled to adjust clipboards. And Matt, standing at the far end of the gym, hands in his coat pockets, just watched. He watched his daughter straighten her display. He watched Musk stop, for a long moment, at the robotics drone. He watched him slowly scan the room. And then, somehow, impossibly, Lily raised her hand. Not in desperation. Not in fear. Just calmly, like she already knew what would happen next. Mr. Musk, she called out. Elon paused. Turned. And Lily asked the question that would change everything. But even before that moment, even before the world heard her voice and the cameras started rolling and her name lit up 1,000 screens, it was already extraordinary. Because this little girl from nowhere, armed with nothing but her mind and a question, had stepped into a room that wasn't made for her and claimed her place anyway. And the universe, for just a moment, leaned in to listen. For all the planning, the drilling, the late-night soldering and rewiring, nothing could have prepared Lily for what it felt like to stand in the center of that gymnasium with her cube humming quietly beside her and Elon Musk's eyes focused directly on her face like she was a variable he hadn't accounted for. The moment was surreal, stretching the boundaries of what a 6-year-old from Midland, Michigan could imagine. Because there was no blueprint for this, no diagram for what to say when one of the most recognizable innovators in the world is standing right in front of you, pausing in the middle of 1,000 distractions to listen to whatever it is you might have to say. Time seemed to slow. Behind him, cameras clicked and students gawked, but Lily didn't look away. She didn't shuffle her feet or hide behind her cube. She stood up straighter. This was what she came for. Not to impress anyone. Not even to win. But to be heard. She looked Musk dead in the eyes and asked, why don't adults listen to kids with ideas? The air changed. For a second, everything went completely still. Even Musk seemed frozen by the question, not because he didn't understand it, but because he did. His mouth parted slightly, and for a long, uncomfortable moment, he said nothing. People around him looked from him to Lily and back again. One of the handlers stepped forward to intervene, but Musk held up a hand. He took a step closer, studied her face, then glanced down at the cube. Did you build this? He asked, voice quieter than anyone expected. Yes, Lily said. It reads the room. It changes colors and pulses depending on how people act near it. It's not perfect yet, but I think I can get it to respond to tone of voice next. Musk knelt down a little to look at the cube, as if getting on her level helped him think clearer. So it senses emotion? Kind of. It's more like response. It learns how to feel based on patterns. If someone yells, it might turn red. If people laugh, it flashes green. If the room gets really still, it just pulses blue. Why? He asked. She shrugged. Because people say emotions are invisible. But what if they aren't? What if we could see what rooms feel like? Then maybe people would stop ignoring how others feel. Musk smiled slowly, that half-smirk he was known for online. That's a pretty big idea for someone your age. It's just a beginning, Lily said. Big ideas start small. Another pause. And then, for reasons no one could have anticipated, Musk turned to the cameras and said, somebody make sure this gets recorded. This is the future talking. And with those 10 words, Lily Carson went from science fair participant number 47 to the most talked about person in the building. Reporters swarmed. Judges rushed over. People scrambled for angles. And Matt, standing behind the divider, could hardly breathe. He'd expected a quiet day. A proud moment, maybe. Not a media frenzy. Not headlines. Not a man worth billions kneeling in front of his daughter like she was the one who built the rocket. Lily didn't flinch under the pressure. She answered questions. She explained her process. She even demonstrated how the cube worked by letting a crowd gather around it, their voices causing it to ripple with shifting colors, yellow when they laughed, blue when they fell silent, red when someone shouted for a better view. "It's still learning," she repeated again and again. "Like me." By the end of the day, she didn't win the fair. A sleek AI project built by a team of high schoolers from Ann Arbor took first place. Lily placed second. But by then, it didn't matter. Because the video had already gone viral. Someone had uploaded the clip of her question, "Why don't adults listen to kids with ideas?" And it spread like wildfire. On Twitter, it hit 1 million views in an hour. On YouTube, tech influencers began analyzing her cube. On Facebook, parents reposted it with captions like, "Look at this brave little girl," and "Reminds me of my daughter." Musk himself tweeted, simply, "Lily Carson. Remember the name." And people did. Overnight, she became a phenomenon. Tech blogs called her the little inventor. Parenting magazines ran her story. Schools across the country asked to use her video for class inspiration. It was a whirlwind Matt didn't know how to navigate. One minute he was trying to keep the furnace working, the next he was fielding emails from TEDx organizers and journalists asking for interviews. Lily took it all in stride. She never once acted like she was famous. She didn't want to be. She still spent her evenings in the garage, tinkering, tweaking, inventing. "The fame's not the point," she told her dad once when he asked if she wanted to do a TV interview. "I just want to build stuff that helps people understand each other better." But things started changing. Fast. A local robotics company offered her a mentorship. A professor from MIT sent her a care package filled with engineering books, circuit boards, and a letter that read, "Your mind is rare. Protect it. Nurture it. Never let anyone convince you small people can't make big change." Someone even started a GoFundMe to help support Lily's lab, and within 3 days, it raised $45,000. Matt stared at the screen in disbelief. "That's real money," he muttered. "We could fix the roof. Maybe even get a new car." Lily, eyes wide, asked, "Can we get a 3D printer?" They did. And shelves for her tools. And insulation for the garage. And, for the first time in a long time, they didn't have to worry about dinner. But not all the changes were good. Reporters showed up at school. Strangers asked for pictures. Some kids started treating her differently, either too nice or not at all. One girl accused her of cheating, saying her dad probably built the cube. Another kid tripped her in the hallway. Again. Only this time, Lily didn't just brush it off. She stood up, picked up her scattered blueprints, and said, calmly, "When you don't understand something, it's okay to ask questions. It's not okay to destroy it." Ms. Carter, watching from the doorway, said later, "That might have been more impressive than the cube." But pressure crept in too. Expectations. Interviews. Meeting requests. A PR team representing SpaceX reached out to Matt, saying Musk wanted to stay in contact. And then came the invitation, a chance for Lily to visit SpaceX headquarters in Texas and spend a weekend shadowing engineers, walking through rocket labs, maybe even meeting astronauts. Matt nearly fainted reading the email. Lily just blinked and said, "Can I bring my cube?" But behind all the excitement, something else was brewing. Because even Lily, with her strong will and brilliant mind, was still just a kid. And the world had begun treating her like a symbol. A product. A brand. She didn't want to be anyone's brand. She wanted to build. To ask questions. To be 6. And one night, after another long day of media requests and congratulations from people she'd never met, she sat on the garage floor, legs crossed, staring at her cube. It glowed softly in the dim light, pulsing yellow. "You feel tired too?" she asked it. Matt knelt beside her. "You okay, bug?" She looked up at him, her eyes a little watery. "Why does doing something good make everything so loud?" He pulled her close. "Because people get excited. You shook something. They want more of it. But I didn't do it for them. I know. I did it because I wanted to show Mom I could." That landed like a punch. Matt pulled her tighter. "You did, baby. You did more than she ever imagined." They sat like that for a while, silence settling over the garage like a soft blanket. Outside, the world was buzzing, press, emails, invitations, fame. But inside this little space, it was just a father and his daughter. A quiet genius. And a cube that pulsed gently, like a heartbeat full of potential. Whatever came next, interviews, speeches, maybe even rockets, Lily would face it the same way she faced everything. One question at a time. The envelope didn't look like anything special when it arrived. It wasn't gold embossed or marked with an official seal, just a plain white envelope with a Texas return address and a logo in the corner that Lily recognized instantly. SpaceX, stamped in black ink like a challenge waiting to be opened. Matt had almost thrown it away, mistaking it for another sponsorship offer or media inquiry, the kind that flooded their tiny mailbox now on a near-daily basis, all because a 6-year-old girl asked one impossible question. But something about the weight of the envelope made him pause. It wasn't heavy, exactly, but it carried a certain gravity, like whatever was inside had been printed with purpose. He brought it inside, called Lily over, and handed it to her without a word. She turned it over slowly, her fingers trembling, her eyes scanning the logo again and again as if it might disappear if she blinked. Then she opened it. A single sheet of cardstock, thick and clean and edged in silver, slid out into her palm. She read it once silently, then again aloud, her voice catching on the last few words. "Miss Lily Carson, we would be honored to invite you to a private visit at the SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, to tour our facilities and meet with our team of engineers. Elon Musk has requested time to speak with you personally. Travel and accommodations will be arranged for you and a guardian. Please respond within 5 days." She looked up at her dad, stunned. "They want me to come to California." Matt didn't speak at first. He was still trying to process what it meant. SpaceX. California. Elon Musk, again. It all felt like something from a documentary, not something meant for their lives. He nodded slowly, then finally found his voice. "Well, kiddo, looks like you've got a rocket to catch." The next few days blurred into a chaotic mix of forms, phone calls, and preparations. SpaceX's team handled most of the logistics, booking flights, arranging a hotel, even sending a prepaid Uber to take them to the airport. Lily packed and repacked her small carry-on 3 times, always with her cube safely wrapped in foam at the bottom. She brought her sketchbook, a pair of goggles, 2 pairs of socks with rocket ships on them, and her lucky screwdriver, the one with the cracked handle and the initials DC carved faintly into the side. Matt had carved them years ago when Lily was just learning how to hold tools. He didn't own a suit, but he did manage to iron his cleanest flannel and borrow a nice pair of boots from his boss at the garage. The morning they left, Midland was covered in frost, the grass crunching under their feet as they rolled their luggage toward the waiting car. Neighbors peeked through windows. One even waved. Lily barely noticed. She was already flipping through her notebook, her mind racing ahead of her body. The airport was another world entirely. Security lines, bright lights, voices over loudspeakers, people in suits and sweatpants all chasing destinations on glowing screens. Lily gripped her dad's hand tightly, not because she was scared, but because she didn't want to lose her anchor. On the plane, she sat by the window and watched the clouds roll by, sketching ideas for a pressure-sensing bracelet that could help people know when they were about to say something hurtful. What if your wrist buzzed, she asked mid-flight, right before you hurt someone's feelings? Matt smiled. Could have used one of those in high school. When they landed in Los Angeles, the difference was immediate. The air smelled different, the light was warmer, and everything moved faster, cars, people, even conversations. The hotel was towering and sleek, with glass elevators that made Lily gasp and a concierge who called her ma'am. She giggled. I'm 6, she told him. I've only been a ma'am for like 20 minutes. The next morning, they were picked up by a black Tesla with SpaceX decals on the side. The driver greeted them politely, offered them water, and played ambient music that sounded like something from the inside of a spaceship. Lily sat upright, her cube in her lap, silent for the entire drive. Not because she was nervous, but because she was focusing. As they neared the SpaceX campus, her grip on the cube tightened. The building looked exactly like it did in the videos, long, white, futuristic, like someone dropped it in the middle of the city from 100 years in the future. Inside, they were greeted by 2 engineers, Maya and Troy, who introduced themselves with wide smiles and firm handshakes. Maya knelt down to Lily's level and said, "You're kind of famous around here." Lily blinked. "I didn't mean to be." "That's usually how it starts," Troy said with a wink. They took her on a tour that felt more like a dream. Massive engines suspended in midair. Prototypes lined up like sculptures. Rooms filled with 3D printers, robotic arms, and screens blinking with telemetry data from satellites in orbit. They gave her a tablet with interactive blueprints and let her adjust variables in a rocket simulation game. She aced it. Maya watched her drag and drop a component into a pressure valve with ease and whispered, "She's not just bright, she's thinking 5 steps ahead." They brought her to the Dragon capsule, real, massive, and full of history. She ran her hand along the edge, whispering, "Wow," as if touching it connected her to the sky. Matt stood in the corner, hands in his pockets, trying to look casual while swallowing the lump in his throat. And then they were taken into a private conference room. It wasn't flashy. It was clean, minimalist, with a whiteboard, a couch, and one long table. At the head of that table sat Elon Musk. No cameras. No entourage. Just him. He stood when they entered and extended a hand to Lily. "Welcome to SpaceX," he said. "I've been looking forward to this." Lily shook his hand. "Thanks for inviting me. I brought Echo." She held up the cube. It blinked once, soft green. Musk smiled. "I've seen the videos. It's brilliant. You turned emotion into data. That's harder than getting to Mars." Lily tilted her head. "Mars is just distance. People are harder." He laughed. "True." Then he gestured to the whiteboard. "Want to build something?" For the next hour, they did. Musk asked questions. Lily answered. He posed problems. She offered solutions. They talked about space, but also about schools, and why some kids stop dreaming. Lily said, "I think people forget how to be curious. Like it's something you grow out of. But I don't want to grow out of it." "Don't," Musk said. "Ever." At one point, Musk grew serious. He leaned back, folded his hands, and asked, "What do you want from all this? The attention? The offers?" Lily looked at her dad, then back at him. "I just want to keep building. And I want kids like me to know they don't have to wait until they're grown-ups to start changing things." Musk nodded slowly. "That's what I hoped you'd say." Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal pin, shaped like a rocket, with a sapphire blue flame. "We give these to people who remind us why we do what we do. I don't give many of them out. But I think you deserve one." Lily accepted it with wide eyes. She didn't speak, just held it in her hand like it was the most fragile thing she'd ever touched. Afterward, they took a photo together, Musk, Lily, and Echo between them. It wasn't shared online. It wasn't meant for publicity. It was just for them. As they walked back toward the exit, Matt whispered, "How do you feel?" Lily looked up at the building, then down at her cube. "Like we're not finished. Not even close." The visit ended with gifts, books, parts, and a certificate naming her an honorary Young Innovator in the SpaceX program. But the most important thing she took home wasn't anything she could hold. It was the certainty that she wasn't alone. That somewhere out there were people who spoke her language, who saw the world not for what it was, but what it could be. On the flight home, she stared out the window again, the rocket pin on her lap, Echo glowing softly beside her. "Dad," she said quietly. "What if this is just the start?" Matt smiled. "Then buckle up, bug. The ride's just beginning." The house didn't feel the same after California, not because anything had changed inside it but because something had changed inside Lily. She came back with the same suitcase, the same cube, the same yellow jacket with the frayed sleeve and the missing button, but her eyes held something new. Like she was seeing the world in a higher resolution, one where possibilities shimmered on the edges of the familiar. Matt noticed it immediately. She didn't bounce through the door or dive into the garage like she used to. Instead, she walked slowly through the rooms, touched the walls, glanced at the family photos like she was measuring the distance between where she came from and where she was going. She set her cube gently on her workbench, turned to Matt, and asked, "Do you think I can do more?" It wasn't an ego question. It was a purpose question, the kind that comes from feeling the weight of expectation pressing quietly against the skin. Matt didn't rush to answer. He took a breath, sat on the stool beside her, and said, "I think you already are. The question is, do you want to?" She nodded. "Yeah. But it's not just about inventing stuff anymore. It's like, people are waiting for me to do something important. And I'm scared I'll let them down." That was the beginning of a shift, one Matt hadn't quite prepared for. The excitement of the science fair and the SpaceX trip had started to evolve into something heavier, a kind of public responsibility that followed Lily into her classrooms, her inbox, her quiet moments in the garage. Emails poured in daily, startups wanting her to endorse apps, nonprofits asking for her face on campaigns, authors offering to write her story, and tech magazines pushing for interviews. They weren't asking her to build, they were asking her to become a symbol, and symbols don't get to be 6 years old. At school, it got worse. Kids who used to ignore her now hovered around her like satellites. Some wanted to be close to fame. Others wanted to take her down. "You think you're better than us now," one classmate whispered during lunch. "Just 'cause Musk shook your hand." Another day, a boy knocked over her lunch tray and laughed as applesauce spilled across the floor. "Oops. Guess that's not space approved." The teachers tried to help, but Lily didn't want to be treated like a celebrity. She wanted to be seen as a kid who loved tools, not a headline. So she hid in the library more often. She stopped wearing the rocket pin. And her sketches, once full of new ideas, began to repeat themselves. "It's like my brain's jammed," she told Matt one night, tears threatening at the corners of her voice. "Every time I start something, I wonder if people will think it's not good enough. Or not smart enough. Or too weird." Matt knelt beside her, wiped her cheek, and said, "You didn't build Echo because someone asked you to. You built it because you were curious. Don't let their noise drown out your questions." But the pressure wasn't just external. Inside, Lily felt it too, the burden of being labeled a genius, of being told she was the future, of knowing people were watching, waiting, expecting. It wasn't just about science anymore. It was about performance. She was invited to a Young Inventors Conference in Chicago. She declined. MIT asked if she'd like to join a special remote mentorship program. She hesitated. Then declined that too. When Matt asked her why, she shrugged. "I don't want to just be the girl from the video. I want to be me. But I don't know who that is when everyone keeps telling me what I am. For weeks, she barely touched her tools. The cube sat dormant, collecting dust. One afternoon, Matt found her staring at it, her hands in her lap, not blinking. "Do you want to take a break?" he asked. She looked at him and whispered, "What if I never have another good idea?" That was when Matt realized this wasn't just a phase. This was burnout, something he'd read about, something adults talked about in articles and podcasts, but something no one expected a 6-year-old to carry. And it broke him to see it. He made a decision that night, one that came quietly, without any dramatic speeches or emotional confrontations. He took her out of school for a week. Told the principal she needed space. Told the emails to wait. Told the world to pause. And he took her camping. Not the tech kind. Real camping. Up north. No Wi-Fi. No cameras. Just trees, stars, firewood, and silence. Lily protested at first. What about her schedule? What if she missed something important? But Matt just smiled and said, "You already are important. And the forest doesn't care how many views you get." So they went. For 3 days, they built nothing but fires. They sketched trees instead of circuits. They talked about clouds instead of code. Lily asked questions about animals, about survival, about why the moon always looks like it's following you. She didn't ask once about Elon Musk. On the 4th night, lying on their backs on a hilltop under a dome of stars, Lily whispered, "I think I feel it again." "Feel what?" Matt asked. Curious. He grinned into the dark. "That's the beginning of everything." When they got back home, the first thing Lily did was unwrap Echo. It blinked once, faint blue, then came to life. She didn't rush into a new invention. She didn't post anything online. Instead, she quietly began rebuilding something that had been lost during the media storm, joy. She made a glove that could light up with gestures, just for fun. She built a motorized pencil sharpener that told jokes. She redesigned the cube's core to recognize changes in silence, because, she said, silence says more than words sometimes. But she also started something else, something private. In a new notebook, one she didn't show anyone at first, she began drawing plans for what she called the listening room. It was a concept more than a machine, an interactive space where kids could share ideas without being interrupted, where lights and sounds changed based on the energy in the room, where ideas weren't graded or recorded or uploaded. Just heard. "I want to build a place where no one feels too small to speak," she told Matt one night. "And no one's afraid to be wrong." Matt didn't say much. Just nodded and whispered, "That's your mom right there, talking through you." She smiled. And that night, for the first time since the fair, she fell asleep with her notebook in her arms and her cube glowing gently on the nightstand beside her. The world outside hadn't changed, it was still buzzing, still watching, still eager to turn her into the next viral star. But inside their little house, inside that messy garage and that warm kitchen, Lily was rebuilding her foundation, one question, one sketch, one moment of wonder at a time. It started with a shoebox and a flashlight. That was the first prototype. Lily sat on the floor of the garage, a pile of foam, old wires, and cardboard all around her, staring at the mess like it held the key to something only she could unlock. She had her new notebook open to a sketch labeled Listening Room Concept Number 3, with arrows pointing to vague ideas like feeling zones and safe energy fields. Matt watched from the doorway, trying not to interrupt the way she liked to work, half talking to herself, half talking to the cube, fully in a world of her own design. She cut a hole in the shoebox, slid the flashlight inside, added 2 mirrors and a sound sensor taped to the bottom, then pointed a tiny fan at the opening. The moment someone stepped in front of the fan, it triggered the sensor, which bounced a light off the mirror that scattered in different directions depending on the speed of movement. "It's just the start," she whispered. "But maybe we can teach light to listen too." Matt couldn't explain what she was doing, not exactly. But he knew what it meant. She was building again, not because someone told her to, but because she needed to. And that meant something important had returned, her curiosity. Over the next week, Lily's sketches evolved from doodles to blueprints. She mapped the listening room across 2 pages, one for what people would see, one for what they should feel. It's not just a place, she told her dad. It's a feeling. Like safety and ideas mixed into the walls. She explained that every corner would be tuned to a different kind of expression. One wall would light up when people shared something they were scared of, another would pulse blue when someone spoke gently, the ceiling would sparkle when someone asked a question without fear of being wrong. It's like a museum where kids can be raw and real, and instead of adults correcting them, the room just responds. Matt said it sounded like magic. She said, it's just tech with empathy. They began assembling materials. Old speakers, fiber optics, plastic tubes, sensors from outdated toys, even a mini projector Matt found in a junk shop downtown. He gave her the garage completely now, moved his tools, cleared space, even installed brighter lights and fixed the old workbench that used to wobble. This is your lab now, he said. Whatever you need, we'll figure it out. But even with the support, things weren't easy. Some nights the cube glowed red, flickering with frustration when sensors failed or circuits sparked out. It's not listening the way I want it to, Lily said one evening, crumpling a page. I don't want it to just react to noise. I want it to respond to the person. That's a pretty big difference, Matt said. Yeah. Reactions are fast. Responses are deep. That's what makes people feel heard. At school, she stayed quiet. She didn't tell anyone what she was working on. Her teacher, Ms. Carter, pulled her aside one day and said, "You're glowing again, Lily. Whatever you're building, I hope it changes the world." Lily smiled. I just want to change a room first. When word eventually got out, because secrets this big don't stay hidden forever, it wasn't from Lily but from a video Matt uploaded to a tiny YouTube channel with 5 subscribers. He filmed quietly one afternoon while she worked, narrating softly. She calls it the listening room. Says it's for kids who feel like their words don't matter. I don't know how she's pulling this off, but I know she's not doing it for the cameras. She's doing it because she remembers what it felt like when no one listened to her. The video was only 2 minutes long. It didn't go viral immediately. But someone saw it, someone who worked at a non-profit called Kidspace Labs, dedicated to funding young inventors with empathy-based tech. They reached out, asked for a conversation, offered a small grant to help with supplies. No expectations, they said. Just keep doing what she's doing. Then the school board found out. And for the first time, they didn't ask Lily to explain herself. They asked how they could help. The local high school offered use of a black box theater for a weekend, to set up a full-scale prototype. Volunteers came, tech students, artists, even a sound engineer who said he just wanted to be part of something pure. Lily didn't know what to do with all the offers at first. She wasn't used to being helped. But Matt reminded her, you asked a question that lit a fire. Now let people bring you the wood. So she did. She handed out instructions. Directed layouts. Explained how the walls should breathe, not literally, but like a hug you didn't know you needed. They used translucent fabric for the walls, stretched over light strips that shifted from warm gold to soft violet depending on the voices in the room. They embedded floor pads that sensed footsteps and triggered ambient tones, higher when someone stood still and braver when someone stepped forward. One wall played recorded whispers of encouragement, stitched together from volunteers reading messages like, "You matter," and, "There's power in asking." Another wall reacted to pauses, dimming slowly to give silence a place of honor. And at the center, Echo, the cube, now upgraded and mounted inside a clear dome, tuned to respond to the overall emotional temperature of the space. If the room was full of energy, it glowed orange and pulsed gently. If sadness hung in the air, it softened to indigo and slowed. If someone laughed, it twinkled. The day before the opening, Lily stood in the middle of the space, alone, the lights swirling around her, echo humming softly. She wasn't sure how it would be received. She wasn't even sure if it would work. But she knew what it was. It was a promise. A promise that someone, somewhere, would finally feel safe enough to speak without fear. The opening night was quiet by design. No media. Just 30 guests, students, teachers, parents, a few local artists. They were invited to enter silently, to explore without direction. Inside, people whispered, cried, laughed softly, held hands, and, most important, spoke. Not loud. Not forced. But real. A boy with a stutter stood in the blue zone and said, "I wish I wasn't afraid to talk." The wall behind him shimmered silver. A girl whispered, "Sometimes I feel invisible," and the whisper wall repeated back, "You are seen." A teacher stood motionless in the pause zone for 5 full minutes, then finally said, "I forgot what quiet feels like when no one needs you to perform." Matt watched from a corner, echo glowing a warm, steady green, and wiped tears from his eyes. Lily said nothing. She just walked slowly through the room, absorbing every color shift, every sound, every moment of courage offered by strangers who finally felt heard. At the end of the night, someone asked if she had anything to say. She stepped onto the small platform and said quietly, "This room isn't perfect. Nothing is. But it listens. And maybe if rooms can learn to listen, we can remember how to do it too." The applause was gentle. Respectful. Like the kind of nod you give to a friend who just said something your heart was waiting to hear. That night, as they packed up the materials, volunteers hugging goodbye, echo powered down for the first time in days, Lily sat on the edge of the stage with her notebook open again. She had already started a new sketch. "The listening library," she wrote. What if every story could answer back? Matt leaned over her shoulder and asked, "You already thinking about the next one?" She looked up at him and smiled. "Yeah. I think I finally figured out what pushes me forward when things get tough." "What's that?" he asked. "Curiosity. And the promise that somewhere, someone's waiting to be understood." He nodded. "That's a good enough reason to keep going." And so, with the lights dimming and the stage emptying, Lily Carson, age 6, builder of listening rooms and believer in quiet revolutions, walked out into the night with a backpack full of blueprints, a cube that glowed like hope, and a mind already racing toward the next impossible question. The world outside the garage, the forest, and the warm glow of the listening room was far less forgiving. It didn't matter how gently Lily tried to move forward or how quietly she wanted to grow, the spotlight she had been thrust into refused to dim. The moment news about the listening room spread beyond Chicago, the media frenzy reignited like wildfire. Headlines ranged from, "Child prodigy saves childhood," to, "Is this 6-year-old really ready for the spotlight?" The internet, once a place for warm encouragement, now rippled with harsh comments, unsolicited advice, and outright skepticism. The backlash came first in whispers, then in waves. "Too much pressure," wrote one viral tweet. "Parents exploiting their kid," said another. Some questioned whether a child so young should be asked to bear the weight of the world's hopes. Others accused Matt of pushing Lily too hard, turning her into a spectacle rather than a person. Lily saw it all, though she tried not to. On some days, the voices filtered in through the chatter of the school hallways or the quiet buzz of her phone notifications. "Why do you keep doing this?" a boy at school asked bluntly one afternoon, not hiding the sneer in his voice. "Don't you get tired of being everyone's project?" His words stung more than she expected. She wanted to say, no, but the answer felt heavy on her tongue. At home, Matt found her sitting at the kitchen table, silent, staring at her cube. "I don't want to be a headline anymore," she whispered. "I just want to be Lily." That moment was a crossroads. Matt, who had always tried to shield her, realized that protection could only go so far. He couldn't control the world outside, but he could teach her to navigate it. He sat down beside her and said, "People will always have opinions, sometimes kind, sometimes cruel. What matters is who you decide to listen to." She looked up, eyes shimmering with tears. "But what if the cruel voices drown out the kind ones?" Matt took her hand gently. "Then you have to build your own listening room inside, one that keeps the kindness close and lets the noise drift away." It was a lesson she'd learned through building, but living it was harder. The school counselor noticed the change too. Ms. Patel invited Lily for weekly chats, helping her untangle the knots of anxiety and doubt. She taught Lily mindfulness exercises, deep breathing, and gave her space to express fears without judgment. It wasn't a quick fix. Some days, Lily still woke up feeling like a storm was inside her chest. But the support, combined with her own quiet strength, began to turn the tide. Publicly, the critics didn't relent. A well-known journalist published an op-ed titled, "When Childhood and Celebrity Collide, Dissecting the Dangers of Putting Young Minds on Display." Social media debates exploded. Was Lily a genuine innovator, or just a well-packaged viral sensation? Matt tried to ignore the noise, focusing instead on Lily's well-being. But one night, an anonymous email slipped into his inbox that made his blood run cold. It was a threat, not direct, but enough to scare. "Stop pushing her. Or you'll regret it." The message was unsigned, but the message was clear. Fear crept into their home like an unwelcome guest. Matt installed extra locks, changed phone numbers, and contacted local authorities. But more than the physical threat, the emotional toll weighed heavily. Lily's dreams, once so bright, flickered with shadows. She stopped drawing new ideas for days. The cube sat lifeless on her workbench. She said little, withdrawing into herself. Matt feared he had made a terrible mistake. Had he pushed her into a world too harsh for a child? One morning, after a sleepless night, Matt found Lily staring out the window at the gray sky. He sat beside her and asked softly, "What do you want, Lily?" She turned and looked at him, eyes steady. "I want to keep building. But on my terms." That phrase became a new mantra. Lily decided to take control of her story. She started by closing her social media accounts. No more updates, no more videos. Just her and her work. Then, with Matt's help, she crafted a letter to her followers, a letter explaining her choice to step back, to protect her childhood, and to remind people that innovation didn't have to come at the cost of innocence. The letter went viral in its own right, humble, honest, and heartfelt. Many responded with support, some with regret, but the message was clear: Lily was reclaiming her voice. Slowly, the backlash softened. Invitations to speak at conferences turned into offers to participate quietly, behind the scenes. She began mentoring other kids her age who felt unheard. The cube, once just a toy, became a symbol of resilience, an emblem not just of invention but of courage in the face of criticism. One afternoon, a local reporter interviewed Lily in her garage. She spoke not about fame or pressure but about listening, really listening to others, to oneself, and to the quiet voice of curiosity that guides all inventors. When asked how she handled the backlash, she smiled and said, "I learned that sometimes, you have to build walls to protect your ideas and doors to invite kindness in." Matt looked on with pride. The little girl who had faced Elon Musk with one simple question had grown into someone who understood the power of choice, the strength of boundaries, and the importance of staying true to herself. The backlash had come with pain, but it had also brought clarity. And as Lily packed her notebook and cube for a new project, a community space designed to amplify young voices, she knew the journey was far from over. She was ready for whatever came next, because she had learned the greatest lesson of all: it wasn't about pleasing everyone. It was about being brave enough to listen to the voice inside, even when the world was loud. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The backlash had taught Lily and Matt a harsh lesson about the world's appetite for stories about prodigies, but it also ignited in them a determination to redefine what success meant on their own terms. With the social media silence still in place and a renewed focus on privacy, Lily felt freer than she had in months. Instead of public applause or criticism, she sought inspiration in quiet places, the park down the street, the pages of her favorite science books, and conversations with her friends who loved stories more than headlines. One afternoon, while sketching designs in her notebook, Lily's thoughts wandered to something she'd heard during a school assembly about community centers struggling to engage young kids, especially those who felt invisible or unheard. It sparked a new idea, a place not unlike the listening room but bigger, more inclusive, a space where creativity could grow without judgment or pressure. Matt watched as Lily's eyes lit up with that familiar fire. What if we built a place where kids like you could come and just be themselves? No cameras, no expectations. Just space to explore and express, she said, tapping her pencil on the page. The idea wasn't new to Matt, he'd seen plenty of community centers come and go, but the way Lily described it was different. A safe place, she called it, where listening wasn't just a feature, it was the foundation. Together, they brainstormed names, sketches, and plans. They called it the Haven. The Haven wouldn't just be a physical space, it would be a network of programs, workshops, and digital resources designed by and for kids. The core mission, to nurture curiosity, empathy, and courage. But building the Haven required more than enthusiasm, it required funding, support, and a plan. Matt reached out to Kidspace Labs again. The same nonprofit that had helped them with the listening room prototype now expressed strong interest in backing this bigger vision. We want to help you build something sustainable, the director said in a video call, something that doesn't just shine briefly but lasts. With a grant secured and a small team assembled, an architect, a community organizer, and a tech mentor, Lily stepped into a role she hadn't expected. She was no longer just the 6-year-old inventor, she was becoming a leader, a spokesperson, a symbol of hope for kids who often felt invisible. The challenges were real. Planning meetings were long and sometimes frustrating. The architect struggled to translate Lily's imaginative sketches into buildable designs. The community organizer pushed back against some ideas, emphasizing inclusivity and accessibility over novelty. But through it all, Lily learned to listen not just to machines or rooms, but to people, with their doubts, fears, and dreams. She realized leadership meant patience and compromise, not just brilliance. On weekends, she still retreated to her garage lab, tinkering with Echo. The cube had become more than a prototype, evolving with new sensors and software that allowed it to better understand human emotions. Sometimes she and Matt would sit for hours talking about what made a place feel like home. It's not the walls, she said one night, it's the people and the stories they bring. The design of the Haven reflected that. Rooms were flexible, with walls that could shift colors and shapes, spaces for storytelling, music, art, and even quiet reflection. They included cozy nooks where kids could retreat when overwhelmed and open areas for group projects and celebrations. Lily insisted on including a digital archive, a place where stories and creations from kids all over could be shared and celebrated anonymously, to protect privacy while spreading inspiration. As construction began, the local community watched with curiosity and growing excitement. Some parents brought their kids to volunteer. Teachers planned field trips. Even local artists offered to donate time and supplies. It was clear that the Haven wasn't just Lily's project anymore, it was becoming a shared dream. One crisp autumn afternoon, Matt took Lily to the construction site. The frame was up, and the walls were beginning to take shape. "Can you believe this is happening?" he asked. Lily grinned, eyes wide. "It's like my notebook came to life." The sound of hammers, saws, and laughter filled the air, a symphony of creation and hope. That night, as Lily lay in bed, she thought about the journey, about the listening room, the backlash, and the unexpected turns that had brought her here. She realized that each challenge had been a step, a part of the path she was carving out. The next morning, a surprise awaited them. An invitation from a prestigious children's innovation conference in New York, offering Lily a chance to speak about the Haven. This time, she felt ready. Not because she sought fame, but because she wanted to share what she'd learned, the power of listening, the courage to face criticism, and the beauty of building spaces that welcome all voices. At the conference, Lily stood on a brightly lit stage, the hum of 1,000 eyes upon her. She took a deep breath and looked out over the crowd, not with fear, but with a quiet confidence. When I was 6, she began, I asked a question that surprised someone very famous. But what really changed things wasn't the question, it was what I did next. I built a room that listens. And now, I'm helping build a place where every kid can feel heard. She spoke about setbacks and hope, about learning to protect her dreams and share them safely. The audience responded with applause that echoed not just in the hall, but in her heart. After the talk, Lily was approached by educators, psychologists, and fellow inventors eager to collaborate. She found herself part of a community that valued empathy as much as innovation. The trip to New York wasn't just a milestone, it was a new beginning. Back home, the Haven's construction neared completion. On opening day, the community gathered under a sky painted with soft blues and golds. Lily stood beside Matt and the team, handing the ribbon to the youngest volunteer, a shy girl who had been inspired by Lily's story. As the ribbon was cut and doors swung open, the first kids poured in, their eyes wide with wonder. The walls responded with gentle hues, echo glowed softly at the center. Laughter, whispers, and stories filled the air. It was more than a building, it was a promise fulfilled. A space where no question was too small, no voice too quiet. As the sun set, Lily stood watching from a window, a notebook in hand, ready to dream again. She knew the journey would never be simple. But with every new horizon, she was reminded of the one thing that always pushed her forward, the promise that somewhere, someone was waiting to be understood. The opening of the Haven marked not only a new chapter for Lily and Matt but also the beginning of connections that neither of them had anticipated. As word spread about the innovative space designed by a child for children, interest from all corners of the country began to pour in. Emails from teachers, parents, and community leaders flooded their inbox, each asking how they could replicate the Haven in their own towns. The project was gaining momentum faster than Lily had imagined, and with that momentum came new faces, some familiar, some surprising. One chilly November morning, as Lily was putting the finishing touches on a new prototype for Echo, the doorbell rang. Matt opened the door to find a tall man with a confident smile and sharp eyes standing on the doorstep. "Hi, I'm Dr. Ryan Ellis," he said, extending his hand. "I work with the National Institute for Child Development. We've been following your story and the Haven's progress. I think there's an opportunity for us to collaborate." Matt exchanged a glance with Lily before inviting the man inside. Dr. Ellis had a reputation for championing innovative education programs but was known for being selective about partnerships. His presence felt like a validation of everything Lily had worked toward. Over coffee, he shared his vision, a national network of child-led innovation hubs inspired by the Haven, supported by research, resources, and grants. "We want to empower kids everywhere to have spaces where they can explore and create, without fear or judgment," he said. Lily's eyes sparkled. This was bigger than Chicago. She imagined the Haven's model spreading across cities, inspiring kids who never dreamed they had a voice. But there was more. Dr. Ellis also introduced the idea of launching a mobile unit, a traveling innovation lab that could bring the essence of the Haven to rural and underserved communities. "We want to meet kids where they are," he said, "so no child feels left out because of geography or circumstance." The team began working on plans immediately. Lily was thrilled to design a compact version of Echo for the mobile lab, adding features to make it durable and adaptable to different environments. Matt coordinated with local organizations to identify areas in need. Meanwhile, the Haven's programs flourished. One day, a shy boy named Jason walked through the doors, clutching a worn-out sketchbook. His family had recently moved to the city, and he struggled to fit in at school. The safe, welcoming environment of the Haven gave him the courage to share his ideas. Over weeks, Lily and Jason worked together, using Echo to translate his sketches into a digital prototype. Jason's confidence grew, and his smile became more frequent. Stories like his reminded Lily why the Haven mattered. However, challenges persisted. Some skeptics questioned whether a child-led center could maintain quality and safety at scale. A few local officials hesitated to allocate funding without more proof of impact. In response, Dr. Ellis helped set up a research program to track the Haven's outcomes, measuring creativity, social skills, and emotional well-being among participants. The data began to show positive trends, easing concerns and opening new doors for funding. Meanwhile, media attention returned, but this time with a different tone. Feature articles highlighted the collaborative nature of the Haven and its growing network. Parents shared heartfelt testimonials. Lily was invited to participate in panels discussing the future of education and child empowerment. Despite the praise, Lily remained grounded. The challenges she faced as a young leader continued. Balancing school, innovation projects, and public appearances was exhausting. Some days, she missed the simple joy of playing with friends without thinking about presentations or prototypes. Matt noticed the strain and made sure to carve out time for family dinners and weekend hikes, away from the spotlight. One evening, after a particularly long day, Lily confided in Matt. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing too much," she admitted. Matt smiled gently. "You're doing exactly what you're meant to do, but remember, it's okay to take breaks. Even inventors need rest." Around this time, an unexpected ally emerged in the form of Grace Henderson, a local artist known for her murals celebrating community and resilience. Grace reached out with an offer to create a large-scale mural inside the Haven, depicting stories of children's dreams and struggles. Her art added a vibrant, emotional layer to the space, making it feel even more alive and welcoming. The partnership was powerful. Grace's work attracted visitors who might not have otherwise come, and it encouraged more children to express themselves through art. Together, Lily, Matt, Dr. Ellis, and Grace formed a diverse team committed to the Haven's mission. They worked late into evenings, brainstorming new programs like storytelling nights, tech workshops, and mental health support groups. Each new initiative brought challenges, but also deepened their impact. On a crisp winter morning, an invitation arrived from a foundation known for supporting innovative youth programs. They wanted to fund a nationwide pilot project based on the Haven's model, including the Mobile Innovation Lab and community partnerships. It was a breakthrough. The news sparked celebration but also reflection. Lily knew this was just the beginning of a long road. With growth came complexity: how to maintain the spirit of the Haven while expanding its reach. How to protect the voices of children amidst bureaucracy. These questions fueled late-night discussions with Matt and their allies. One particularly challenging conversation came when they debated the use of technology within the Haven. Some team members worried about over-reliance on screens and gadgets, fearing it might alienate kids who preferred hands-on, unplugged activities. Lily listened carefully and proposed a balance. Echo and digital tools would be integrated thoughtfully, complemented by physical workshops, outdoor activities, and community events. The focus remained on human connection and creativity, not just technology. As spring approached, the Haven's first anniversary drew near. Plans for a celebration took shape, inviting families, local leaders, and supporters. Lily prepared a speech, reflecting on the journey from a simple question asked years ago to a movement growing beyond anyone's expectations. On the day of the anniversary, the space buzzed with energy: kids exploring new projects, parents sharing stories, volunteers busy at work. Lily took the stage, heart pounding but steady. "When I asked that question years ago," she began, "I never imagined it would lead here, to a place where voices matter, where ideas grow, and where every child is seen." She paused, eyes scanning the crowd. The journey has been full of surprises, challenges, and lessons. But I've learned that with listening, kindness, and courage, we can build worlds we only dreamed of. The applause was thunderous, but what moved Lily most was the faces of children smiling back at her, their eyes bright with possibility. The success of the Haven attracted attention beyond their city. Educational organizations reached out to collaborate, technology companies offered support, and other young innovators connected with Lily to share their ideas. She began mentoring kids across the country, encouraging them to find their own questions and build their own listening rooms. Through it all, Lily stayed true to the lessons learned during the backlash, the importance of boundaries, self-care, and staying grounded. The story of a 6-year-old facing Elon Musk had evolved into something much bigger, a movement centered on listening, empathy, and empowering young voices. Yet, amidst growth and recognition, Lily never forgot the simple joy of discovery, the thrill of creating something new. She knew the path ahead would have bumps and detours, but with unexpected allies by her side and a community behind her, the horizon held endless promise. Despite the rapid expansion and growing success of the Haven, Lily found herself at a critical crossroads. The excitement of launching new programs and forging partnerships was accompanied by growing pressure and unexpected obstacles. With more eyes watching and more hands reaching in, the purity of the original vision felt fragile. It was during a chilly March afternoon meeting that the first major disagreement erupted. The board members, including representatives from several funding organizations, wanted to shift the focus toward measurable academic outcomes. They proposed standardized tests and rigid performance benchmarks for children using the Haven's programs. "We need data to prove the effectiveness," one board member insisted. Lily sat quietly, her small hands folded in her lap, but inside a storm was brewing. To her, the Haven was about creativity, listening, and emotional growth, not test scores or metrics. Matt glanced at her, sensing her discomfort. After the meeting, Lily voiced her concerns. "If we turn this into a place where kids feel judged or measured, we lose what makes it special," she said softly. Matt nodded. "Your instincts are right. But we also need to show funders that this place is making a difference." They knew the balance would be difficult. Over the next weeks, Lily and the team wrestled with compromises, introducing optional evaluations while preserving unstructured creative time. Meanwhile, the Mobile Innovation Lab was preparing for its first deployment to a small rural town with limited resources but high hopes. Lily had designed a compact version of Echo tailored for travel, and Matt coordinated logistics with local schools and nonprofits. When the lab arrived, the children's excitement was palpable. For many, it was the first time they encountered such technology and a space that encouraged their voices. Lily spent days on the ground, helping kids explore projects, sharing stories, and listening deeply to their hopes and fears. One boy, Miguel, stood out. Quiet and shy, he surprised everyone by building a tiny robot that could water plants. Through conversations, Lily learned Miguel's family faced struggles with food security, and his invention was inspired by a desire to help at home. His story was a powerful reminder of the real lives behind each project. But not every moment was easy. The increased visibility of the Haven attracted critics once again. Some accused the program of being elitist, accessible mostly to those who could navigate the application process or attend certain schools. Others questioned whether the mobile lab was a short-term fix rather than a sustainable solution. The team listened, taking the feedback seriously. They began developing scholarships and outreach programs to ensure broader access. Lily also made a personal promise, to visit more communities, to understand diverse needs firsthand. As spring blossomed into early summer, Lily faced another challenge, her health. The stress and exhaustion from balancing school, innovation, leadership, and public appearances began to take a toll. She started experiencing headaches and fatigue that wouldn't go away. Matt insisted on a doctor's visit. The diagnosis was mild but clear: Lily needed to slow down and take better care of herself. The news hit her hard. For a child who had always pushed forward, stopping felt like surrender. But Matt gently reminded her that even the strongest inventors needed rest to keep creating. They agreed to scale back public appearances and focus on small, meaningful projects. This turning point reshaped their approach. Lily began delegating more, trusting the team she had helped build. She also prioritized time for friends, play, and quiet moments away from technology. In these spaces, new ideas blossomed. One evening, during a family hike, Lily looked up at the stars and wondered about space, the final frontier. She shared a dream of creating a version of the Haven that could inspire kids to explore science and technology related to space travel and sustainability. Matt smiled, excited by the spark in her eyes. With renewed energy, the team brainstormed Stellar Haven, a program within the Haven focused on astronomy, robotics, and environmental stewardship. They reached out to local universities and space agencies for support. As plans took shape, Lily felt a deepening sense of purpose, not just to build spaces but to open minds and hearts to the vast possibilities ahead. At school, her friends noticed the change too. She was more relaxed, playful, and curious. She laughed more freely, no longer weighed down by constant expectations. Teachers observed her growing confidence and resilience, impressed by how she balanced her passions with the joys of childhood. But as the Haven expanded and her dreams grew, Lily remained mindful of the lessons learned from the backlash, the importance of listening, boundaries, and self-care. One afternoon, during a quiet moment in the garden behind the Haven, Lily sat with Matt, reflecting on the journey. "Do you think I'll always be known as the girl who asked Elon Musk that question?" she asked. Matt chuckled. "Maybe. But more importantly, you're becoming someone who inspires others to ask their own questions." Lily smiled, feeling the truth of those words. The turning point wasn't just about slowing down or making tough decisions, it was about growth. The courage to face challenges, adapt, and keep moving forward with heart. As summer approached, the Haven prepared for its annual festival, a day celebrating creativity, community, and dreams. Kids from all programs would showcase their projects, share stories, and connect. Lily worked on her presentation for Stellar Haven, excited to unveil the first prototypes of mini rovers designed to explore simulated Mars landscapes. The festival day arrived with sunshine and laughter. The air buzzed with excitement and possibility. Families wandered through colorful exhibits, artists performed, and children's inventions sparkled under the bright sky. Lily stood by her display, guiding curious visitors through her projects. She felt a deep gratitude, for the journey, the people who believed in her, and the endless horizons ahead. That night, as the festival wound down and stars twinkled overhead, Lily realized the turning point was not a moment in time but a process, an unfolding story of courage, kindness, and relentless curiosity. The world was still loud, full of challenges and critics, but inside the Haven, and inside herself, Lily had found a place of peace and strength. She was ready for whatever came next. Despite the outward success of the Haven and the excitement of new programs like Stellar Haven, Lily faced a growing internal struggle that few people saw. Behind her bright smile and endless enthusiasm, doubts began to creep in, questions about her own worth, fears of failure, and the overwhelming pressure to live up to everyone's expectations. One quiet evening, after a long day filled with presentations and workshops, Lily found herself alone in the lab. The familiar hum of machines and the soft glow of Echo usually comforted her, but today they seemed to amplify a feeling of loneliness. She stared at the cube, its sensors blinking rhythmically, as if waiting for her to say something. She wished she could tell Echo about the storm inside her, the worries that maybe she wasn't strong enough to carry the movement she had started. Matt noticed the change too. He saw how Lily stayed up later, skipped meals, and sometimes withdrew from friends. "You don't have to do this alone," he told her one night, his voice gentle but firm. "Even the bravest people need help." Lily nodded, but the weight of responsibility felt like a heavy cloak she couldn't shrug off. At school, the gap between her public role and private feelings grew. She was celebrated as a leader and innovator, yet she sometimes felt invisible, misunderstood by peers who only saw her as a genius or a media story. Her closest friends, while supportive, didn't always grasp the complexity of her emotions. One afternoon, during a science club meeting, Lily excused herself to the restroom, her chest tight with anxiety. She caught her reflection in the mirror, a confident face, but with tired eyes. In that moment, she realized the challenge she faced wasn't just about external success, but about facing herself. Lily began to explore ways to manage the pressure. She started journaling her thoughts and feelings, scribbling down fears alongside dreams. She found solace in drawing, creating imaginary worlds where failure wasn't an option and kindness was the rule. Slowly, she opened up to Matt and Grace, her trusted allies, sharing her struggles. They listened without judgment, reminding her that vulnerability was strength, not weakness. With their encouragement, Lily agreed to meet with a counselor, a kind woman who specialized in working with gifted kids facing burnout. Their sessions became a safe space where Lily could untangle her thoughts and fears. She learned breathing exercises to calm her mind and techniques to set boundaries, both online and in real life. Meanwhile, the Haven continued to thrive, but Lily's role shifted. She focused more on mentoring other kids, sharing not just technical knowledge but the lessons she learned about resilience and self-care. One of her men's, a bright girl named Ava, reminded Lily of herself, curious, determined, but sometimes overwhelmed. Helping Ava navigate her own challenges became healing for Lily. The turning point came during a regional conference where Lily was invited to speak about innovation and youth leadership. As she prepared, anxiety threatened to take over. What if she stumbled? What if the audience saw her fears? On the day of the talk, standing backstage, Lily took a deep breath and remembered the journey, the setbacks, the support, the growth. When she stepped onto the stage, she spoke honestly about the challenge within, the importance of facing fears, asking for help, and embracing imperfections. The audience responded with empathy and applause. After the talk, a young boy approached her, eyes shining. "Thank you," he said simply. "I feel less alone now." That moment reinforced Lily's belief that true strength came from honesty and connection. Back at the Haven, she introduced new programs focused on mental health and emotional well-being, ensuring that every child could find support when facing their own challenges. The team worked to create spaces where kids could express feelings without fear, learn coping skills, and build a community of care. As seasons changed, Lily found balance, not by ignoring her struggles but by embracing them as part of her story. She realized that leadership wasn't about being perfect, it was about being human. And in that humanity, she found power beyond inventions and accolades. The challenge within became not a barrier but a bridge, to deeper understanding, stronger relationships, and a future filled with hope. As the Haven continued to grow and evolve, Lily and her team realized that the next big challenge was about breaking barriers, not just technological or social, but deeply rooted barriers of inequality and access that affected countless children across the country. Though the Haven had already made strides toward inclusivity, Lily knew there was more work to be done. One morning, after a community meeting, a mother named Denise approached Lily with tears in her eyes. Denise explained how her son, Jamal, had a passion for science but struggled to participate in programs like the Haven due to lack of transportation and financial resources. The story hit Lily hard. It was a stark reminder that even with the Mobile Innovation Lab, many kids remained out of reach. Determined to make a difference, Lily gathered her team to brainstorm solutions. They decided to launch a pilot initiative called Access for All, aimed at dismantling barriers that prevented kids from joining. This meant securing funding for transportation, creating sliding-scale membership fees, and partnering with schools in underserved neighborhoods. Matt coordinated logistics while Grace and Lily designed outreach materials that spoke directly to families from diverse backgrounds. The initiative also included training volunteers to be cultural liaisons, individuals who could bridge gaps of language, trust, and experience. As word spread, communities responded with enthusiasm and gratitude. Parents expressed relief that their kids could finally participate in a place that felt welcoming and supportive. For Lily, the work was deeply personal. She remembered how, as a child, her own curiosity had been sparked by a teacher who believed in her. Now, she wanted to be that spark for others. One of the most moving moments came during a visit to an inner-city school, where Lily introduced the Havens programs to a group of kids who had never before seen such resources. Among them was Tasha, a bright and curious girl who shyly shared her dream of becoming an engineer. Over several weeks, Tasha thrived, building prototypes and sharing ideas. The joy in her eyes was a powerful affirmation of the initiative's impact. Yet, breaking barriers was not without its difficulties. Some community members were skeptical, wary of programs that seemed too good to be true. Past experiences had left them cautious. Lily and her team responded with patience and transparency, holding open forums, listening deeply, and adapting programs to meet community needs. Meanwhile, the Haven expanded its partnerships with local libraries, youth centers, and nonprofits, creating a network of support that extended beyond the walls of the original space. Technology companies began donating equipment and offering workshops, eager to support the growing movement. Lily was invited to speak at national conferences about the importance of equity in innovation and education. Her message was clear: creativity and potential are not limited by zip codes or backgrounds, and society must invest in breaking down the walls that keep talent hidden. At home, Lily found herself inspired by the stories of the children she met, each one breaking barriers in their own way. Some overcame language challenges, others faced economic hardship, and many battled stereotypes and low expectations. Their resilience fueled Lily's determination. One evening, as she reviewed plans for the next phase of Access for All, she reflected on the journey. What began as a simple question from a 6-year-old had blossomed into a movement that challenged the status quo. But Lily knew the work was never finished. Breaking barriers meant continuous effort, learning, and listening. It meant confronting uncomfortable truths about inequality and privilege, and committing to change not just in words but in action. To celebrate the initiative's milestones, the Haven hosted a Barrier Breakers event, bringing together children, families, partners, and supporters. The atmosphere was electric with hope and pride. Stories were shared, inventions displayed, and laughter echoed through the halls. Lily took the stage once again, her voice steady and passionate. "Every barrier we break opens a door for someone's dream," she said. "Together, we can build a world where every child's voice is heard, and every idea has a chance to shine." The applause was heartfelt, a testament to the community's shared commitment. As the event ended, Lily stood among the crowd, feeling the warmth of connection and possibility. She knew challenges would continue to arise, but with allies by her side and a vision rooted in equity and empathy, they were ready to face whatever came next. The story of a 6-year-old asking a single question had become a story about many children, each breaking barriers and building futures brighter than anyone had imagined. Just when Lily and her team thought they had charted a clear path forward, an unexpected twist came that would challenge everything they believed about partnership and trust. The Haven's Access for All initiative had gained traction, but funding was still a constant concern. One afternoon, a surprising visitor arrived, Dr. Marcus Reynolds, a respected but somewhat controversial figure in the tech world known for his unconventional approaches and outspoken opinions. Lily first encountered Dr. Reynolds at a local innovation summit. His reputation as a maverick preceded him, some called him a visionary, others questioned his methods. When he approached Lily after her talk, she was both curious and cautious. "I've been following your work," he said, "and I think we can do something extraordinary together." His proposal was bold. A collaboration to build a new kind of learning environment combining virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and community-driven content to reach children in even the most isolated areas. The idea sounded exciting but also risky. His previous projects had sparked debate over privacy and ethics, raising red flags for some of the Haven supporters. The team debated fiercely. Matt worried about the potential for losing control over their mission, while Grace saw the opportunity for unprecedented impact. Lily felt torn. She knew that progress often meant taking calculated risks, but the stakes felt higher than ever. After days of reflection, Lily agreed to meet Dr. Reynolds again, this time with more questions than answers. Their conversations revealed a man driven by a personal story, his own childhood marked by isolation and lack of access to education. He saw in the Haven a chance to atone and create a legacy of inclusion. Slowly, trust began to build. Dr. Reynolds demonstrated transparency, inviting the team to participate in every stage of development. Together, they envisioned Haven Nexus, a platform where children could explore immersive educational worlds, connect with mentors worldwide, and create their own content. The project promised to shatter geographical and economic barriers like never before. As development commenced, Lily and her team grappled with technical challenges and ethical considerations. They established strict data privacy policies and prioritized user safety, consulting with experts and families alike. Community forums were held to ensure voices from all backgrounds shaped the platform. The collaboration breathed new life into the Haven's mission, energizing staff and volunteers. But it also brought new pressures. Funding deadlines loomed, technical glitches frustrated users, and public scrutiny intensified. The media portrayed Dr. Reynolds alternately as a genius or a risk, and Lily found herself navigating a delicate balance of optimism and caution. One pivotal moment arrived during a pilot launch in a remote Appalachian community. Children who had never seen computers before were now immersed in virtual environments that let them explore ecosystems, build machines, and connect with other kids across the globe. The joy and wonder in their eyes reminded Lily why she had started this journey. Yet, amidst the celebration, a security breach occurred, a data vulnerability exposed. The news spread quickly, shaking confidence in Haven Nexus. Lily felt the weight of responsibility crushing her. Was she too trusting? Had she endangered the very children she sought to empower? Together with Dr. Reynolds and her team, she acted swiftly, taking the platform offline to fix the issue, issuing transparent statements, and involving independent auditors. The experience was humbling but also a testament to the team's resilience. The breach became a catalyst for even stronger safeguards and deeper community engagement. Throughout the crisis, Dr. Reynolds stood by Lily's side, sharing the burden and committing fully to their shared vision. Slowly, trust was restored. Haven Nexus relaunched, stronger and more secure, and began to change lives in ways previously unimaginable. Lily reflected on the journey with newfound wisdom. The unexpected ally had brought not just innovation but also hard lessons about trust, accountability, and the complexity of progress. She realized that true leadership meant embracing imperfection, building bridges even when wary, and standing firm in values amid uncertainty. The partnership also deepened her belief in collaboration, not just between adults or organizations, but between generations, cultures, and perspectives. The Haven had always been about community, and now it was more true than ever. In quiet moments, Lily thought about the 6-year-old question that started it all. That simple spark had ignited a wildfire of change, fueled by people willing to take risks, face fears, and break down walls together. As she looked ahead, Lily knew that the path would never be easy or linear, but with unexpected allies and steadfast hearts, the future was bright. She was ready to lead, to listen, and to build a world where every child's potential could shine without limits. The launch of Haven Nexus marked a monumental achievement for Lily and her team, but it also brought them face to face with a moment of truth that would test everything they had built. After months of preparation, the platform went live to an eager and diverse audience. Children from urban centers to rural towns logged in, exploring immersive worlds, collaborating on projects, and connecting with mentors worldwide. The excitement was electric. Yet, beneath the surface, challenges began to surface quickly. Technical glitches appeared during peak usage times, causing frustration among users and concern among the staff. A few parents raised questions about screen time and the impact of virtual experiences on real-world learning. Some educators worried about the digital divide, whether kids without reliable internet access were being left behind. Lily felt the weight of these issues pressing down. Every decision now seemed magnified, every setback more daunting. The media coverage was intense, with headlines praising the innovation but also questioning sustainability and equity. In this moment of truth, Lily gathered her core team for a series of honest conversations. "We can't control everything," Matt said pragmatically. "But we can control how we respond." Grace emphasized the importance of listening to users, adapting based on feedback, and keeping their mission front and center. Lily agreed. She realized that success wasn't about perfection but resilience, the ability to navigate storms with integrity and heart. They launched a User Voices program, creating channels where children, parents, and educators could share experiences and suggestions. This direct connection energized the team and guided rapid improvements. One story stood out, a letter from a teenager named Marcus living on a Native American reservation. Marcus described how Haven Nexus gave him the first chance to connect with mentors who understood his culture and supported his dreams of environmental science. His words were a powerful reminder of why they persevered. At the same time, internal tensions arose as the team struggled to balance innovation with ethical responsibility. Lily spearheaded workshops on digital well-being, encouraging users to find balance between virtual and real life. They partnered with mental health experts to create resources for families. The process was messy and complex, but it grounded the project in compassion. Public events showcased success stories, highlighting children who had transformed ideas into inventions and solutions for their communities. These celebrations renewed faith in the mission and strengthened partnerships with schools, nonprofits, and corporations. Amid the whirlwind, Lily faced her own internal moment of truth. The pressure to be a symbol of success clashed with her desire for authenticity. In quiet reflection, she remembered her early struggles, the loneliness, doubt, and fear. She found strength in vulnerability, sharing openly about the ups and downs during interviews and talks. This honesty deepened connections with the public and inspired others facing their own challenges. One particularly meaningful moment came during a live-stream Q&A with children using Haven Nexus. When a shy girl asked Lily how she handled failure, Lily responded candidly. "I've failed a lot," she said. "But each failure taught me something new. The important thing is to keep asking questions and never give up." The girl's smile and response was priceless. As months passed, Haven Nexus evolved from a bold experiment into a dynamic ecosystem of learning, creativity, and community. The moment of truth had revealed imperfections, but also resilience, adaptability, and hope. Lily's leadership matured, grounded not in flawless achievement but in courage, empathy, and a commitment to growth. She recognized that this journey was bigger than any one person or project, it was about building a movement that honored every child's potential and humanity. The story that began with a 6-year-old simple question had blossomed into a testament to the power of curiosity, collaboration, and courage. Lily stood ready to face the future, not with certainty, but with faith in the journey and the people who walked it with her. After the successful relaunch of Haven Nexus and overcoming the initial hurdles, Lily began to notice the ripple effect of their work spreading far beyond the Haven's walls. Stories poured in from all corners of the country and even abroad, children and families transformed by access to new opportunities, communities energized by fresh hope, and educators empowered to rethink how learning could happen. The ripple started small, like a pebble dropped into a still pond, but quickly grew into waves that reached unexpected places. One morning, Lily received an email from a teacher named Mr. Hernandez in a small town in Texas. He described how his students, once disengaged and struggling, had become excited about science and technology thanks to Haven Nexus. They were collaborating on projects that connected local environmental issues with global technology solutions. The kids were dreaming bigger than ever before. Another message came from a nonprofit in Detroit, detailing a new after-school program inspired by the Haven's model. They adapted the programs for their community, focusing on empowering youth from disadvantaged backgrounds. The nonprofit's director wrote, "Your work showed us that change is possible, and it starts with believing in our kids." These stories filled Lily's heart with pride and humility. She realized that the Haven was no longer just a place, it had become a movement. The ripple effect was multiplying, fueled by passion, innovation, and the belief that every child deserved a chance. With this momentum, Lily and her team expanded outreach efforts, creating partnerships with schools and organizations across different states. They developed toolkits and training programs to help others replicate their success, sharing lessons learned and best practices openly. Social media amplified the impact, with children sharing their projects, mentors exchanging ideas, and communities celebrating achievements together. Lily also noticed a new generation of young leaders emerging, children who had grown up with the Haven and were now stepping forward to guide others. One of these young leaders was Ava, Lily's mentee, who had blossomed into a confident and inspiring advocate. Ava started her own initiative focused on environmental technology, rallying peers to innovate solutions for climate change. Watching Ava and others like her gave Lily a profound sense of continuity and hope. The ripple effect extended beyond technology and education. It began influencing how communities viewed youth potential, shifting narratives from deficit to strength. Parents, educators, and policymakers started seeing children not as passive recipients but as active creators and change agents. Lily engaged with local governments and national bodies, advocating for policies that supported equity in education and innovation. The message was clear: investing in children's curiosity and creativity was not just a moral imperative but a catalyst for societal progress. The ripple also reached back to Lily personally. Invitations arrived for her to speak at international forums, collaborate with global organizations, and contribute to research on youth development. Each opportunity was a chance to amplify the voices of the children she served and to learn from diverse perspectives. Despite the expanding scope, Lily remained grounded in the daily realities of the Haven. She spent time with children, listening to their dreams and challenges, reminding herself that the ripple started with individual connections. One afternoon, a little boy named Sam, no older than 6, tugged at her sleeve and asked, "Can I ask you a question?" Lily smiled, recognizing the spark that had changed her own life years ago. "Of course," she said. Sam's question was simple but profound, reminding Lily that the cycle of curiosity and growth was unending. The ripple effect was not just about wide-reaching impact but about every small interaction that planted seeds of possibility. Reflecting on the journey, Lily understood that the true power of their work was in creating a living network of support, inspiration, and empowerment that transcended any single program or person. The ripple was a testament to the enduring strength of community and the limitless potential that arose when barriers were broken and dreams nurtured. As she looked toward the future, Lily felt energized by the knowledge that the movement she helped ignite would continue to grow, carried forward by countless hands and hearts dedicated to a brighter, more equitable world for every child. Despite the momentum and the growing ripple effect of the Haven's work, Lily soon faced the hardest lesson of her journey, learning to accept that not every battle could be won and that sometimes, sacrifice was necessary for true growth. The pressure of leading a transformative movement took a toll on her personally and professionally. As the Haven expanded, tensions among staff and partners increased. Differences in vision and approach sparked conflicts, and the weight of expectations felt heavier each day. Lily found herself struggling to balance the relentless demands of the project with her own well-being and relationships. One evening, after a long day of meetings and crisis management, Lily sat alone in her office, overwhelmed and exhausted. The phone rang. It was Matt, her trusted colleague and longtime friend. He gently urged her to take a step back and reflect, reminding her that leadership wasn't about doing everything alone. Lily realized she had been trying to hold it all together by sheer force, pushing herself past limits that no one should have to face alone. The next weeks brought difficult decisions. Some team members left, unable to align with the evolving vision or overwhelmed by the pace. Lily had to say goodbye to trusted friends and mentors, moments that broke her heart but also taught her the painful necessity of change. She learned to lean more on her remaining team, to delegate and trust others to carry the mission forward. Amid this turmoil, a funding crisis struck. A major grant that had sustained the haven was unexpectedly cut, leaving the future uncertain. Panic rippled through the organization. Lily scrambled to secure alternative sources, reaching out to new partners and donors, often facing rejection and skepticism. The strain was visible in every meeting, every email, and every conversation. Yet, in the midst of hardship, Lily discovered a deeper strength within herself and her community. Volunteers stepped up, offering time, resources, and unwavering belief. Families and children shared stories of how the haven had changed their lives, reminding Lily of the bigger purpose behind the struggle. She learned the importance of resilience, not just bouncing back from setbacks but growing stronger because of them. The hardest lesson came during a moment of personal crisis. Lily's mother, who had supported her journey from the start, fell seriously ill. Torn between caregiving and leadership duties, Lily grappled with guilt and doubt. She realized that to truly serve others, she had to honor her own needs and boundaries. With the help of friends and colleagues, she took a temporary step back, allowing space for healing and reflection. This time away gave Lily clarity. She returned with renewed focus and a wiser heart, embracing vulnerability as a source of courage rather than weakness. The experience reshaped her understanding of success. It wasn't measured by achievements or milestones alone but by the capacity to adapt, forgive, and love, including oneself. Back at the haven, Lily initiated open dialogues about mental health, work-life balance, and community care. She fostered a culture where asking for help was strength, and compassion guided every decision. The hardest lesson also deepened her connection with the children they served. She shared her story with them, not as a perfect leader but as a fellow traveler on a path of growth. This honesty resonated, inspiring others to face their own challenges with courage. Reflecting on this chapter of her life, Lily understood that true leadership was as much about learning from failures and setbacks as it was about celebrating victories. The hardest lesson had broken her open but also made her whole in new ways. The story that began with a 6-year-old's question now included the vital message that growth required patience, humility, and self-compassion. As the haven moved forward, this lesson would guide every step, ensuring the movement remained not just powerful but sustainable, rooted in humanity and hope. After weathering the storm of the hardest lesson, Lily found herself at a pivotal crossroads, the turning point that would define not just the haven's future but her own. The organization had survived crises, evolved through challenges, and grown in unexpected ways, but now it faced a crucial decision: how to scale sustainably while preserving the core values that had sparked the movement. The turning point came during an invitation to speak at a national education summit. Lily was asked to share the haven's journey, the triumphs and trials, with policymakers, educators, and innovators from across the country. Standing on that stage, she felt the weight of responsibility but also the thrill of opportunity. She chose to speak honestly, weaving the story of the 6-year-old question, the rise and fall and rise again of Haven Nexus, and the lessons learned through setbacks and sacrifice. Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations that extended far beyond the summit. After her talk, a respected foundation approached Lily with a proposal to fund a national rollout of Haven Nexus. The offer came with strings attached. Tight deadlines, reporting requirements, and demands for rapid expansion. The temptation was immense. Such funding could change everything overnight. Yet, Lily hesitated. The turning point was not just about growth but about staying true to the haven's mission. She gathered her team for a frank discussion, weighing the benefits and risks. Some argued for seizing the opportunity, seeing it as a chance to amplify impact. Others warned that rushing could compromise quality and community trust. Lily listened carefully, then shared her vision. Scaling would only succeed if it honored the voices of the children and communities at the heart of their work. She proposed a phased approach, building local partnerships, adapting programs to fit diverse needs, and maintaining open channels for feedback and collaboration. The team embraced this thoughtful strategy, and together they crafted a plan that balanced ambition with care. Meanwhile, the turning point also sparked personal growth for Lily. She learned to delegate more fully, empowering others to lead initiatives and make decisions. This shift relieved pressure and sparked creativity, as fresh ideas flowed from new leaders within the haven. She also deepened relationships with mentors and peers, recognizing that no one builds a movement alone. The turning point extended beyond strategy to impact. As the haven expanded thoughtfully, stories of transformation multiplied. In rural Mississippi, a girl named Jasmine used Haven Nexus to develop a project on sustainable farming, inspiring her community to adopt greener practices. In Chicago, a group of teens launched a peer mentoring network through the platform, fostering support and resilience. These stories fueled Lily's belief in the power of grounded growth, change that respects roots while reaching toward the future. The turning point also brought new challenges. Navigating bureaucracy, managing diverse stakeholders, and maintaining cohesion in a growing organization tested Lily's leadership in unprecedented ways. She faced criticism and doubts, both external and internal. Yet, her commitment to transparency and values helped her steer through turbulence with integrity. One defining moment came when a major technical partner proposed changes that conflicted with the haven's privacy principles. Instead of compromising, Lily took a stand, risking the partnership but protecting the children's rights. The decision was difficult but ultimately strengthened the organization's credibility. As the haven moved into this new chapter, Lily reflected on the journey from that first question asked by a curious 6-year-old to the movement they had become. The turning point was not a single event but a series of choices, some bold, some cautious, that shaped a future built on trust, innovation, and heart. She understood that the path ahead would continue to be complex, requiring wisdom, flexibility, and unwavering dedication. Yet, she was ready. With her team, her community, and the legacy of curiosity and courage, Lily stepped confidently into the turning point, knowing that every step forward was a chance to change lives and rewrite what's possible for generations to come. As the sun rose over the city, casting a golden glow through the windows of the haven's headquarters, Lily sat quietly, reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had brought her here. What started as a simple question from a curious 6-year-old had blossomed into a movement that touched thousands of lives, ignited dreams, and redefined what was possible for children everywhere. The story had been filled with unexpected twists, moments of joy and despair, triumph and sacrifice, conflict and profound connection. Now, as the chapter of the haven's early years came to a close, Lily found herself embracing both the victories and the lessons with equal gratitude. She thought about the children whose lives had been transformed. Ava, Jasmine, Sam, Marcus, all young leaders who had stepped into their power and inspired others. Their stories were woven into the fabric of the haven, reminders that real change starts with believing in potential and nurturing it with care. Lily's heart swelled with pride knowing that the ripple effect continued to spread, carried by the voices and actions of countless individuals united by hope and courage. She reflected on the hardest lesson she had learned, the necessity of vulnerability, self-care, and embracing imperfection. These insights had deepened her leadership and reminded her that true strength comes not from never falling but from rising each time with renewed purpose. The haven had grown beyond a project. It had become a living community grounded in trust, empathy, and shared vision. As Lily prepared for a celebration event marking a new milestone, a decade since the haven's founding, she felt a profound sense of closure and new beginnings intertwined. Families, educators, mentors, and children gathered to honor the journey and look toward the future. The air was filled with laughter, stories, and the hum of possibility. At the center of the celebration, Lily spoke from her heart, weaving the narrative of resilience, curiosity, and love that had guided them. She reminded everyone that while technology and innovation were tools, the true power lay in human connection and the unwavering belief in each other. Life is full of surprises, she said, but love will always lead the way. The words echoed the very essence of the story that began with a single question and grew into a beacon of hope. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, Lily took a moment to walk through the spaces where it all began, the workshop rooms filled with inventions, the virtual worlds bustling with creativity, the quiet corners where children had shared dreams and fears. She saw the faces of the future in every detail, their imaginations, resilience, and courage reflected back at her. The resolution was not an ending but a beginning, a commitment to continue learning, growing, and serving with humility and passion. Lily understood that the journey ahead would have new challenges, but she was ready to face them with an open heart and steady hands. She carried with her the lessons of every chapter, the power of questions, the strength of community, the necessity of hope amid hardship, and the transformative magic of love and sacrifice. The story closed with a message that resonated deeply with every listener and reader: no matter where you come from or what you face, your voice matters, your dreams matter, and you have the power to change the world. As Lily looked to the horizon, she smiled, knowing that the story was far from over. It was a living, breathing testament to the enduring spirit of humanity and the limitless possibilities that arise when curiosity meets courage. The journey of the Haven and its people was a mirror reflecting our own potential to rise, connect, and create a better tomorrow, one question, one step, one act of love at a time. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?